Right. If you sent, I guess you could use a different audio device for Zoom. Whatever. 13 seconds. Yep. Here we go.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Photo Joseph's Photo Moment with a bit of a chaotic and totally unexpected pre-show. But hey, that's all part of the fun and games because today what we're doing is something entirely special and unusual. And oh yeah, some of you guys are watching this on Aaron's channel right now, going, "Who's this bald guy? Like, what just happened?" Well, let me just resolve that problem right now. Aaron, welcome to my show, and I guess
Thank you.
well. You can welcome me to your show since we're on your channel too.
Yeah, this is a joint show. We're both broadcasting to both of our channels. So welcome, Photo Joseph, to my channel.
And welcome to mine. So this is all about experimenting with the new ATEM Streaming Bridge and seeing what we can do with it. And you've got a schematic to show off, but before we really confuse people with that, because I know what's going on, and I looked at that schematic and I'm like, what? Can you explain this? I have no idea what you're doing here. Let's just go a kind of a high level overview of what it is we're doing here and why we're doing it. I'll start with the high level. Actually, let me do this. Let me start to try to explain it. And then as I mess things up, you can interject and be like, dude, you got it all wrong. That's not what we're doing at all. So, so the whole purpose here is we're showing off the new ATEM Streaming Bridge, which I would love to pick up and show you, but it is now currently tucked away behind my desk with a bunch of wires plugged into it. But that was that little thing that you saw on the opening graphic. The idea behind the Streaming Bridge, this is a relatively new product from Blackmagic, is in conjunction with the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro or ATEM Mini Pro ISO. Instead of streaming to YouTube, oh good, Aaron's got one to hold up. Excellent, look at that. Instead of streaming, what do you have, two of these things? We should be doing this. Oh wait, no, of course you're not using yours. What am I thinking? Um, look, I'm a little slow, okay? It's been a long day, and it's only 10 a.m. From the ATEM Mini Pro or Pro ISO, instead of streaming to YouTube or wherever else, you can stream to that hardware device that Aaron's holding. You just got to do a little key swap, and once you set it up, you're streaming directly to that. And it's essentially a point-to-point connection, giving you very good quality, very low latency, and overall it's pretty awesome. And then you can take that box and you can put it anywhere on your local network or anywhere in the world. And so what we're doing right now is Aaron has got his normal broadcast setup with his ATEM Mini Pro or Pro ISO, and he is streaming to my bridge, that device that he's holding up. I've got one of those here plugged into my ATEM Mini, so I'm receiving his feed, which is onto my ATEM Mini, onto my bridge, which is then being pumped into the ATEM Mini Pro, just like any other camera source. And then we've built a split screen here. That's essentially what we're doing. Now, one of the really complicated parts of this is if we just do that, I can hear and see Aaron, but he has no way to hear and see me because the bridge is a one-way communication path. So Aaron, why don't you take over from here and explain the second half of this, the Zoom backend thing that we've got going.
Yeah. So like Joseph was saying, if I were to just stream my video to him, I wouldn't be able to hear what's going on that end, except for by watching the YouTube feed, which is then very delayed, and it would not at all work as a way to have a conversation. So instead, we have a separate Zoom call going where both of our ATEMs are plugged into our laptops and we're in a Zoom call and we're just talking on Zoom. So we're having a normal conversation on Zoom and both using our same cameras that we're streaming from. So we're getting high quality video in Zoom as well, but that is only for the back and forth between us. And it actually doesn't have to be the same camera and audio that we're sending to YouTube. It could have just as well been iPhones next to a camera on FaceTime, right? We just need a link, synchronous link between ourselves that way we can have a conversation that isn't what's being sent to YouTube.
Right, and so, remember when you say that we could use a separate camera, that is actually an easier / safer way to do it. The only reason we're able to use the same cameras through Zoom is because the Zoom is really, really good noise cancellation, echo cancellation. You should, or Aaron should be hearing himself twice, but he's not because Zoom is awesome at that. But what we did set up as a test was I just set up a webcam and plug that in. So if this didn't work, or if we're using something other than Zoom, then that secondary conversation, that side conversation, that maybe it's on Skype or FaceTime or something else, would probably be better handled by a separate camera, like even just a simple webcam, because nobody else is going to see it. Only Aaron would see me on the webcam. Yeah.
Speaking of audio, they're saying that you're a little bit quieter than me now. Should I?
Interesting. I'll just
crank.
Yeah, well, I guess bring yours up if I'm not clipping, because I was clipping earlier. Yeah, why don't you bring yours down just a touch, because I don't want to start clipping if I bring mine back up.
Yeah, I can bring mine down. Is this any better now? Okay. So I guess the next question people are asking is why? Why do this? Why not just use Zoom, or stream directly from Zoom or something like that, which absolutely does work. And Zoom can broadcast directly to YouTube as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'll take part of that. So first of all, if you just stream from YouTube, from Zoom to YouTube, yes, 100% that works. But then the audience is seeing your Zoom feed, your Zoom layout. You don't really have a whole lot of control over that, and it's only 720p, and I don't know, you can't do any of the other cool stuff that we're doing. It's basically lower quality, less control. It's not broadcast. It is just a Zoom meeting that is being fed. What we're doing here allows us to do a very high quality broadcast. This is essentially a multi-million-dollar satellite truck for a few $100 and a lot lower latency, which is kind of cool. Because the latency part, like if you're using a satellite truck, you've got a latency. I mean, you've all seen the nightly news, and over to Bob in the field, and Bob's like, "Hi, Marcia, thanks." There's that big long gap in there because that's the satellite delay, and the internet delay is way less than that. So yeah, what we're trying to do is provide a really high quality experience for you, the viewer, by feeding you two very good quality streams, essentially as if we were in the same room together, or in the same building at least. That's effectively what we're getting, because the connection that I'm getting from Aaron is a direct feed, point-to-point, high bit rate. Actually, what bit rate are you streaming it at, Aaron?
I'm on hyperdeck low, so I'm pushing 12 megabits a second to you right now.
Right. So he's pushing 12 megabit to me, which I'm then re-encoding for YouTube, which I think is encoded at 6 or 8 megabit or something like that, which is obviously the combination of both our feeds. So that means the feed that I'm getting from Aaron is high enough bit rate that by the time I re-encode that to send out to the public, it should not suffer any quality loss. I mean, it'd actually be interesting, audience, do you guys see any video quality difference in either of our feeds? Does it look like one of us is calling in over Zoom versus just another camera in the same room? That'd actually be a really interesting thing to hear of. I'm going to scroll through the comments, because we had these comments up for a while, and I know I missed a whole bunch of them. And we actually both, so we are both streaming to both of our channels. We both have our unique comment feeds up, and we can pull up comments from either one of our shows on our own side. So, you go, Aaron, if you grab one, just throw one up, and let's get this going. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, there was I saw a good one over here. Oh, and again, as usual, if you do have a question for us specifically, make sure you mention my name on my channel and Joseph's name on Joseph's channel.
Right. Creative Studio says, "Man, what are you streaming at? The quality is amazing." Well, that's good to hear. That is very good to hear that the quality is amazing. That's what we want to know.
Here we go. So, are we using the audio from Zoom and syncing it to the ATEM sources and setting a delay within the ATEM? So, no. What we're doing is Zoom has nothing to do with what you're seeing on YouTube. Zoom is just for us to talk to each other. Otherwise, it wouldn't really work. But what YouTube is getting is my audio from my camera through my ATEM, which is my normal, simple, little tiny mic plugged directly into my camera, so it's just all in sync. That's streaming to Joseph's studio, going into one of the HDMI ports. He's mixing that with his audio from his camera directly in the ATEM. So everything's just in sync by default. And then the ATEM is doing the split screen, which is the normal. I think I've walked through this on my channel before of how to do the split screen with the upstream keyer. You shift it over, crop it, and then Joseph's just sitting off to the side of his scene.
Right, exactly. If I go full camera for me, So I'm sitting on the side here. If I pull back the split screen, then yeah. So I have to be mindful of that I don't accidentally get too far over.
Yep. And so yeah, that's where the audio is getting to YouTube. Now, the one sort of weird thing here, which you may notice occasionally, is that there is a delay in the streaming bridge. It's not actually real time. So there's a slight delay. We're timing it out, and it seems to be slightly under 1 second from me pushing to his studio. So based on whatever is causing that, I don't know. Like we're not in the same city, but we're not across the continent. Although I don't think it actually makes any difference going across the continent. So that delay may manifest itself on YouTube by me reacting late to what Joseph is saying, or Joseph reacting early to what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's the one thing to look for, which is the one artifact. And it's less than a second, so it's way less than the satellite truck delays, but you may still notice it in the quick back and forth that we're doing.
In fact, Aaron, why don't where did I put my phone? We have that clock app that we were using. Where did I put my phone? Let me grab it. Let's get that clock app up. We can hold that up and people can see the latency.
Yeah, what was that clock? Time. So,
what did you find it? What was the app?
No, I forgot.
Clock. Rect clock.
So he can see you, he can hear you through the streaming bridge, but then do you hear him through Zoom? So no, he's monitoring me through Zoom also. Otherwise, he'll be hearing a delay. So he's not actually listening to his program audio. That's the solution here.
Right. Yeah, and listening to your program audio on an ATEM Mini setup is impossible if you're the one talking, because there's that HDMI delay and you'll hear yourself on echo. So you can never really monitor yourself through an ATEM Mini. If you want to get to that level of broadcast, that's a whole other step up, which is what I did with the larger ATEM before, and a separate audio interface and a whole thing. You can't do that with the ATEM Mini. This is one of the sacrifices you make. Did you find the app? It was clock.
It's on my iPad. I have to go run and get it. So, but I did see this comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Was it? Okay. Tell me the name of it and I'll find
it. Flip clock.
Okay, so the question here, though, what YouTube is seeing, or what YouTube is getting, is actually from Restream. Right. So Joseph's encoder is pushing to Restream, and Restream is pushing to both of our channels. So YouTube, if you're looking at this stream on my channel versus Joseph's channel, it is the same stream already.
Right.
Because it's being pushed to both our channels from Restream.
Right, and if there's any delay difference in there, any sync difference in there, that's just YouTube, internet, Restream, who knows, totally out of our control. Yeah. But yeah, I'm pushing one stream to Restream.io.
I'm so not finding this app.
Here, I'll send it to you.
I think it was on my iPad.
Okay. All right, while you're doing that, I'm going to take a look, and let's see here. Shark says, how do I get the post with those fancy graphics? These fancy graphics, we will talk about that. This is Aaron's custom madness in here. Let's see here. There were a bunch of things that came up earlier. We got all that covered. Hello in Dubai. Okay, that's awesome. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's up, Tommy? Thanks for joining.
Tommy's in the house. Only saying hi to you, not me. I see how that is. Whatever. It's too bad you weren't here earlier, Tommy. We threw you under the bus when we said we wanted to make sure that our show didn't turn into a double stream disaster like yours.
Pull a Tommy.
All right, you got the clock app? Okay.
Yeah.
So here there we go. So now you can see the difference in real time. That's
assuming our phone clocks are in sync, which
they should be. It's NTP time. Yeah. I mean, these should be in sync. That's remarkable, frankly. That's even better than it was when we tested earlier. So, yeah, wow. So there you go. So I think someone had asked earlier, where are we? So we're both in the same state, which is just coincidence. I'm in Southern Oregon, he's in Northern Oregon, but that's not, obviously, if you're doing a point-to-point stream across the other side of the world, there would likely be a slightly more delay, but you never know. I mean, his connection to me, it's not like it's a string running, an Ethernet cable running from his studio to mine. It could be bouncing to New York and back. I mean, who knows what route it's taking to get here. We could do a trace on it, but that sounds like way too geeky.
Speaking of across the pond, I last week was actually testing this with Mark, who just commented here, and he's in Germany, and we were doing this test as well, and honestly, the latency was about the same. It was about a second. It was very, very good.
Wow.
So, Portland to Germany. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm assuming that the audio for everybody is fine. I keep dropping you in my earbud, but I think it's just an AirPods thing. I don't know what. In fact,
I think it's just Zoom.
I'm good.
Zoom or AirPods.
Oh, do you think it's Zoom, not AirPods? I'm going to switch over to the other AirPod and see if that makes any difference. There we go. Now you're back. Okay. Switch out of there. See if that makes any difference at all. Thank you very much, Tyrone. Sports podcasting, would this work with the Raspberry Pi streaming bridge?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Because really all that is needed for this is I'm pushing an RTMP feed to Joseph's studio. Happen to be using the streaming bridge because it's super easy to set up, and the streaming bridge has like the built-in generate the XML config for the other ATEM. So he just sent me an XML file. I loaded it into my software and hit go, and it just goes.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, this looks and sounds a lot better than a satellite news feed. Crazy. This is all possible with a few. Oh, it got cut off. A few grand ATEM and cameras. Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. And here's another interesting aspect of this. So we are streaming. I'm receiving the split screen from him receiving a direct feed from him that I've turned into a split screen to stream out. Obviously, if I record the program here, then I'm going to be recording this. But I could insert a recorder between the bridge and my ATEM, or if I was using an ATEM Mini Pro ISO, I could record all the streams as ISOs and have that all ready to re-edit if needed. So it's totally possible to do this and get that 1080p master file that has all the ISO feeds in it with all the graphics, and the only thing that would be permanently burned in would be the chat coming up on your screen, Aaron, because I'm getting that direct feed. Right. So that would be permanently burned in. The one on mine is actually a separate layer. So it's just a downstream key that I can turn on or off, which of course you can do as well, but I don't get two feeds from you.
Yeah, speaking of chat, let's explain how that's working, because I think it's interesting
that
we
sure.
are both sharing sharing comments on the chat.
Totally.
So in my ATEM, I'm using my normal chat setup of broadcasting the YouTube pop-out with my custom Chrome plugin. I've done video on that now, so go look at my channel for that. And that is being pushed to my Chromecast into the ATEM. So on my ATEM, I see that as a video source. And I've now shrunk the window to be half size so that it fits in this little skinny view, and then use the downstream keyer to put it on my video, and that's happening on my end. So I'm pushing my chat comments to Photo Joseph's streaming bridge, and he's getting the mixed version of that on his feed. And then he's doing the same. In his ATEM, he's pulled up the same plugin with Chrome, doing the same downstream key on his end, and then mixing it into his video.
Right. So if I go full screen on my Mac right now, this is what you see here. And when I pull up a chat, let's see here. Here's a question from Morris. I pull up a chat. That's what is on my screen in front of me. But by the time it's all comped together, it's keyed out, and this is the end result. And again, that's Aaron's custom plugin, which is available for free on the Google Store, right?
Yep.
So let's answer this question from Morris. Do you have to run the video feed, I guess, through an ATEM before feeding it to the streaming bridge? Can you hook up a camera directly? Now, you do need the ATEM. The ATEM is what sends an encoded signal to the bridge. When you look at the bridge, its input is an Ethernet port. Its output is HDMI and SDI, but the input is just the Ethernet. There's also a timecode sync and a reference time clock on there, so you can, and I haven't even explored this yet, but you can make it even more perfectly in sync. But the input to the bridge is a network feed, and that can be on a local network, it can be across the world, but that's the only way to get video into the bridge. And then the output is a normal video feed that you can plug into anything. Tommy says, little tip for participants, if you want to participate in both chats, use the pop-out chats on both. Oh, there you go. There you go, folks. Absolutely, you can have both chats open at once. True dat. Team DLS says, it's amazing that you're getting Aaron's feed, then streaming to restream while keeping high quality. That is a lot on one connection. Well, not really, because my ingest and my download and upload speeds are separate, right? So I've got I have a pretty high download. I have like 300 megabit download, but my upload's 20-ish. So, but they're totally separate. So I'm getting that feed at 12 megabit from Aaron, but then I'm outputting only 6 megabit to Restream, which Restream is taking care of these, distributing it out to the other channels. Oh, and I never hit go on Restream to all the other places, to Facebook and everywhere else. Oh well, this is a YouTube show today. So yeah, so it's not actually that bandwidth heavy. It really isn't. It's not really anything special. Someone is asking for the schematic. Aaron, you've got a schematic. You want to?
I sure do. Let me pull up my computer tab. Where did that browser go?
Okay, let me know when you're ready, and I'll give you full
then you
screen.
Can switch to me.
Yeah.
Full screen.
Benno says, what kind of Bluetooth transmitter are you using to monitor audio? We're both just wearing Apple AirPods, just connected to our computers, and that's only so that we don't have the speaker sound. Speaker, audio coming out of the speakers potentially interfering with the mic. That's the only reason we're doing that.
So, okay, I've got my computer loaded up here. So if you switch to me full screen,
okay,
then I will cut over to.
All right, you are full screen.
Then I will. Yep. Oh, and you should get rid of the chat, I guess, because you're over.
Oh, that's on mine. There we go. Done.
Yeah. So this is. Oh, and I should see if I can do picture in picture. On mine. Now I block it. Oh well. Should have thought about that ahead of time. Oh, actually, yeah, there we go. Perfect. Fit in the corner. So this is what's going on here. And unfortunately, there's a bug with my Mac where my mouse doesn't show up on the screen that you're seeing in the ATEM, but I can highlight these. So this is my side up here. I've got my camera running into my ATEM Mini Pro, and that is going into my laptop from the USB, which is then going into our Zoom call down here, right? Then I'm streaming over the internet over to Joseph's studio, to the streaming bridge up here. That's plugged into, HDMI 2 on his ATEM or whatever it is. He's got his camera plugged into his ATEM. And then this could be an ATEM Mini Pro streaming directly to Restream, but I believe he actually uses a separate streaming encoder on his end.
That's right.
But that's, it could just as well be an ATEM Mini Pro streaming directly to Restream as well. And of course, his ATEM is also plugged into his laptop, connected to the same Zoom. And then I didn't put the audio on here, but with the audio, we're using our audio from our cameras going into the ATEMs, and then for Zoom, we're using headphones connected to our laptops. So we're both feeding separate audio into Zoom than what we're feeding to the stream.
Yeah, sounds about right. There you go. Bring us both back up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's once it's all outlined, once we figured it all out, it's actually relatively simple. And we thought that the biggest challenge was going to be the audio, that we would have to set up this whole separate, what you'd call a back channel, this whole separate back channel communication through Zoom with separate audio, separate cameras and everything else. But it turns out, again, as I said in the beginning, because Zoom's noise echo cancellation is so good, even though technically Aaron is hearing me or hearing himself in the feedback loop, he's not hearing himself. I think you said before we were testing it, Aaron, that you occasionally would hear it, but it was about the equivalent as if you're having a conversation on Zoom with someone who had their speakers up kind of loud and occasionally it clipped in.
Well, that was when you were sending the program audio to Zoom, right? And you've switched now to send your AirPods audio to Zoom, I think, right?
No. Oh, okay. Right. So no, I am sending you a clean camera feed through Zoom because I have the hardware set up to do that. So, okay, yeah, let's talk about that part of it, right? So on my end, I've got a camera, and someone had asked if I was using a 4K camera. It is actually, this is a GH4 that is set up right here, but it is outputting 1080p into the ATEM Mini. So that's the fact that it's 4K, whatever, irrelevant here. So I've got my camera on a simplified view. My GH4 in this case would be plugged directly into the ATEM Mini, and that's how you would be seeing me. That's how I would do a normal show. By doing that in Zoom, I can then, because my ATEM Mini is connected by USB into my Mac, Zoom sees the ATEM Mini as an input source for both audio and video. So I can feed the same video, which would be the program out. So it would be only the broadcast that you would be seeing, the program. I could send that same program to Aaron. The thing is that would include his audio, because Aaron is sending me his audio, which I've mixed into the show to broadcast, since I can only send the program out over USB to to Zoom, he would be hearing himself, and it would be on a slight delay, so he'd hear it as an echo, which would drive him insane. However, Zoom's echo cancellation is so good that it has picked that up and it's eliminating it, so he's not hearing it. Now, what we're actually doing in practice, because I have a kind of a ridiculous hardware setup, my GH4, and this is one of the reasons I use the GH4 for this, even though it's an ancient camera, the GH4 has this thing called a YAG. It's a massive interface that sits on the bottom of the GH4 that gives it XLR input and SDI output. And so what that means is I can take well, first of all, my microphone is an XLR mic that is just plugged, where is it? Let me bring it in frame, there we go. It's an XLR mic that is plugged directly into the camera. But it also means that I can take a second video feed out of the SDI port. And so I've got the HDMI coming out of the GH4 that's plugging into the ATEM. I then have an SDI feed coming out and running into a whole separate interface, SDI to USB. It's called an Inogeny. That's plugged into my Mac. And then in Zoom, I can pull up the feed from the ATEM or from the Inogeny. If I choose the ATEM, I've got the program. If I choose the Inogeny, then it's a direct camera feed. So that allows me to send to Aaron that direct video feed so he doesn't see the program. But I think what we're doing now, Aaron, am I sending you the program video? I don't even know what I'm sending you anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm seeing myself now in Zoom.
Okay, so I'm sending Aaron the program video. In fact, why don't I just show this? Hold on, let me turn this off and pull this up. It's probably easier to show. Find the Zoom. Like 800 windows open here now. All right. Right, so let's do this. Okay, so this is the Zoom settings. If I look at video, I am sending him the Blackmagic, which is the ATEM. That is the video there. If I chose to send him the Inogeny, then that would be just the feed of me. So now that's what Aaron is seeing through Zoom. I can send him either one. So I'm sending him the Blackmagic one so that he sees himself. It's kind of a confidence monitor. But remember, the audio can be separate. So what I have done is I am sending him the audio directly from the Inogeny, which is, it's in sync, and it is a clean audio feed of just my microphone. What that also means, though, is that if I was to do something like, oops, I gotta bring that window back. If I was to do something like adjust the audio on my ATEM, he's not gonna hear that this way. He would only hear the clean feed, so. And that's not necessary.
And you could, yeah, no, it's not. The simpler version of that is to just use your AirPods as the mic in Zoom as well.
Right. Totally. Which would actually make this a lot, I don't know, easier. But yeah, it would be maybe safer. But you're absolutely right. It would totally work. And then I could even set up a webcam if I didn't want to send him the program video and I didn't want to, or didn't have the whole crazy hardware setup with a whole separate dedicated video feed, just a cheap webcam. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Aaron's getting a high quality video feed of me. As long as he can see me enough to have a conversation, what matters is that the audience sees a clean video feed, which of course they do. Morris is asking if we can talk a little bit about the actual streaming bridge. What software does it use and how to feed something into it? Sure, you want to take that, Aaron?
Yeah, so this is the hardware, and it is essentially a way to capture the stream from an ATEM Mini Pro or Pro ISO. And that's basically it. That is the end
Anywhere
of the
in the world.
story. So it's anywhere, yeah. But it is like a single-purpose device streamed from an ATEM Mini Pro, either in a studio or remotely, to this device. And the output of this is 2 SDIs and 1 HDMI, which means you can then run this into your ATEM Mini, any switcher, not an ATEM Mini. It doesn't have to be an ATEM Mini. It could be any switcher at that point. And it just shows up as an HDMI source. So the remote end does have to be a ATEM Mini Pro or ISO, which has that encoder that talks to that device. And that is, but then once it's at the other end, it can go into anything. It doesn't have to be an ATEM on the other end, on the receiving end.
Right, and that's important to point out. It doesn't even have to be a switcher. One of the use cases for this is to simply rebroadcast a show internally. Let's say you've got a huge corporate network and you want, or a huge corporate office, you know, remember those, and you want to do an internal broadcast to every conference room in the facility. You could put one of these bridges in every conference room plugged into a TV and stream directly to that TV. And that can be on our local network or it can be anywhere in the world. So again, that output, like in this use case, Aaron is sending me a direct feed so that I can incorporate him into my show, but Aaron could just as easily be broadcasting an entire show, which I am then, you know, incorporating or not, or just watching or whatever, any number of things. It's really quite impressive how many things you can use this for. It's one of those simple little products that you go, oh, that's cool. Okay. Oh, wait, but I could do this. Oh, but I could do this. Oh, wait, I could do this. And there's a lot of options once you just consider that all it is a feed from an ATEM anywhere in the world, and you can put it anywhere in the world. That's kind of awesome.
Yep, definitely.
And I'm getting poor streaming status on YouTube, which I can only blame on Restream since I'm feeding something to Restream. That's, God. I think my channel just doesn't like me for live anymore. I'm blaming it.
I don't see anything. YouTube's not complaining about what you're sending to my YouTube, so.
Figures. And Restream's got a plenty good signal.
What would be the use of the ref in on the bridge? Seems to be working fine without it. Do you want to take that? Because I've never actually used that one.
I haven't either. So the whole idea behind a reference sync, I think this would only be used if you were on a local setup. This wouldn't be used for across the internet. So if we were in a big building like that whole corporate office environment, and I wanted to ensure perfect sync, although it still would have a delay. There's still going to be a latency, so I'm not quite sure where the reference sync comes in. I just haven't dug into it. It's got what, reference sync and timecode input? Is that right? Is that the other input?
It's SDI ref and ref in.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, reference is all about keeping things in perfect sync, but when it's across a network, that's not going to be. So I don't honestly know. Yeah, for another show, we'll have to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a very, very important question from Zach. He wants to know if we woke up this morning and nudged each other and said, "Oh, what are you wearing?" Martin says, do you use VPN for port forwarding for the RTMP stream from Aaron? No, you don't need to do anything like that. That's the beauty of this. It's so simple.
No, you did. You did have to port forward to your streaming bridge.
Oh, for the bridge. Okay, you're right. All right, you take that because you helped me set that up.
Yeah, networking land is fun. So I didn't do anything special on my end. I'm just, plug in the settings into my ATEM just like any other streaming destination. But on Joseph's end, he does have to go into his router and configure port forwarding to the streaming bridge. And it just picks a port or whatever, like pick whatever port you want and point it to the streaming bridge. And then that gets baked into the config that he sent me. So I'm streaming to his public IP address of his studio. And then his router's taking it from there to the streaming bridge.
Right.
It would also work over a VPN. You could also do it with VPN where if I could connect into his VPN, which would also require some sort of port forwarding or a remote VPN service, then as long as we're both on the same network at that point, it would work as well. So VPN would work, but we are not using that today.
Yeah, I would say the setup, I think the setup could have been smoother on my end for setting up the port forwarding. There wasn't a whole lot of explanation of what needed to be done. There was kind of an error that it wasn't seeing the internet, and I think maybe it said port forwarding needs to be configured, but it just basically gave an error, and if Aaron hadn't been helping me, I'd probably still be scratching my head trying to figure it out. But yeah, to be fair though, I never even opened the manual because Aaron was on with me, so we just did it, and he had already done it on his end. So maybe it's all in the manual. I don't know. Maybe it's easier than I'm giving it credit for, but it was a little bit of a pain.
Yeah, I think it's like anything networking where they assume like this much about networking concepts and that you know what you're doing and that you have to figure it out. It's not quite as simple as walking you through the entire process. So one of the things about the streaming bridge that I did notice is that when you use it locally on your own network, not over the internet, you don't have to do any setup. Like I plug this in to my network in the room here, and then just in my ATEM software control, it just shows up automatically.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
The kind of like, I love that, just totally seamless. But if you want to use it remotely, you do have to do the port forwarding setup.
Right. Yeah, that was really cool. When I first got it and I started configuring it, to be fair, I don't know, maybe I was having a bad week. So I plugged it into the Ethernet and nothing happened. And at some point I went, oh, right, the stupid thing has power. There was a power brick in the box. I think what had happened is I had unboxed it, was looking at the thing, cool, set it aside. And then when I went to set it up a few days later, I forgot that there was an actual power supply in the box. So I put in the power supply. Okay, now it's got power, it's lit up, yay. Still not showing up in my ATEM software. Oh, because I had to update my ATEM software, which had to update the ATEM. So it's definitely one of these things where if you're going to do this, just make sure everything's up to date first, because there's no indication. You plug it in and literally nothing happens. No software sees it. It's just like, what is happening here? I'm seeing no messages, nothing. make sure you're fully up to date on your ATEM software, and then it works a lot easier. Now that the port forwarding is set up too, as we're saying that I can generate a new key for somebody else, and or I guess I'd just send them the same key, but there would be a risk in that because you would have conflicting keys if you both hit go at the same time. But I can just generate a new key. I don't have to re-go through the port forwarding. It's set up. I just generate a new key and send that file, and it's a little tiny XML file. I just sent it to Aaron over messages, and he loaded it, and off we go. Yeah. It is pretty cool. Let's see here. Shark says,
question. Is the
go ahead, Aaron. You have a question. No, go. See, there you go. There's that 1 second latency that is
there we go.
Not perfect. You go, Aaron.
Well, actually, that's actually I think that in particular, us talking over ourselves was actually Zoom's latency. So Zoom actually has its own latency, which is very, very minor, but it is there, and it's like I think under a quarter second or so, but it's just enough that when you both try to like say, "Oh no, you go ahead," "No, you go ahead." That's where it gets tripped up. Anyway, the question from Lloyd: is the quality good enough for green screen keying? Green screen my video, but on your side. And whoa, that was a glitch. So could you use my video and then key out my video on your end?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I would say that it wouldn't be as clean because it is a compressed signal, and for a clean key, you want as clean of a feed as possible, right? If you're in a professional environment, say, professional broadcast environment, you're doing any kind of green screen or Hollywood environment, you are capturing 4444 fully uncompressed video to make sure that you have the absolute cleanest feed possible, and you're capturing it at minimum 4K, maybe 6K, 8K, 12K, just to make sure that you have that extra resolution to play with when you're keying it and bringing it down. If I was to key a green screen feed from Aaron, so meaning if Aaron was set up with a green screen behind him, he's sending me that, absolutely I could key it, but it would not be as clean as if he did the key because I'm getting that much lower bit rate. What'd you say, 12 megabit you're sending me? So a much lower bit rate
I'm at
feed.
12 right now, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, it would work, but it would not be as clean. Shark was saying, had a great day filming in London. Awesome. A day before lockdown is over. Oh, good. Use the Camlink 4K for remote interviews. No, it's not. I've lost the rest of the message. Are you saying ATEM Mini is perfect for audio in sync? Well, remember, the sync of the audio and video is happening in the camera. My microphone is routed into my camera so that the video feed that I take from my camera is an AV feed. My audio and video are already in sync. Aaron's doing the exact same thing on his end, so his audio and video are in sync. Our two streams, my AV feed and his AV feed, are not in sync because we are, hundreds of miles apart, streaming over the internet. But there's a very minimal second to half a second delay. So that's where this out of sync issue comes into play. Let's see. I'm going to scroll back up because there's been a lot of chat going on that I have missed.
Yeah.
D. Niman, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. I know that was like 100 years ago you texted that, but good to see you. Well, here's a nice, very general question for us. How to start on live production business as a freelancer? I know the tech audiovisual part, but I lack the business mess. Yeah, the business part is definitely it's part of it. It's funny because I always would tell people, young people who are thinking about going into business as an artist. They want to be an artist. They want to make money as an artist, photographer, filmmaker, whatever. It's like, that's great. Go to business school, learn business and marketing. Don't go to school to learn how to be an artist or a technician because that is not what you need. You can figure all that out on your own. You can learn that on YouTube. But learning how to run a business, that's the hard part. I'm reasonably successful as a businessman. I'm sure I could be much more if I had more business focus. But I don't know. There's no real easy answer to that other than get out there, hustle, get some clients, start charging a reasonable rate, and build yourself up. It's just hard work. There's no shortcuts to that one for sure. I know it's kind of a crappy answer, but there you go.
Yeah. No, I haven't done much of that side of work in a while now. But I was doing a little bit of freelance work, doing filming like conferences, and the way that I got connected to that was because I had been speaking at a lot of conferences for my my software developer world, and as part of that, just started meeting people who are running the shows, and then start getting connected to them. And then I was like, oh, I want to get into this video side of things. So who did I know who ran conferences? Well, people who are already in my network. So I started, first of all, finding some events that I would just volunteer at. If there was like a nonprofit or like some really small thing where I was like, I'll volunteer here and try out some gear, see how it goes, get some experience, and then able to start saying, okay, I actually do this. I'm going to charge a client for it. And, you know, you put the word out, you do a couple of gigs, and you get referrals. And most of the business at that point was all just word of mouth referrals.
Sounds great. Here's another question that came up. This is an earlier one, but this is a great question. I'm guessing there's too much latency for musicians to perform together in real time. Yes, but remember that so let's just say that Aaron and I were trying to do a musical duet here. Oh God, there's a disaster waiting to happen. Remember that I'm getting a feed from him over the streaming bridge, which is about half second to a second delayed. So absolutely, without a doubt, too much of a delay for any kind of musical response thing. He is not hearing me through that. The only reason that he can hear me is because we have this Zoom connection, this back channel Zoom connection. Anything over the internet, there's going to be a delay. I would say, and I've never done this and I'm not a musician, but I would say that if you were going to try and do some kind of a live, multi-location band playing type thing, that obviously being able to hear your co-musicians in real time is critical. And I think the fastest source that we have is telephone. And if you can get an analog, plain old telephone system, that's what you open up as a telephone call. And you keep a regular old telephone call open because that's going to give you your lowest latency. And then let you're not hearing or listening to what's coming through the internet. Somebody else is mastering all that, pulling it all together into one place. But if you had that, and as far as I know, that is the closest thing to real time that we've got is good old fashioned analog telephone.
I think there's, so Curtis is saying there's some software called Jam Kazam. I have never heard of that, but I think that, and then there was another one, audio only server Jamulus. I think and here's a couple more. So the answer basically is special purpose software, because the audio latency is key for that. And the only way to optimize for that is to actually do the work to optimize for it. So Zoom gets close, but not quite close enough for music. And there is special software that will, prioritize the audio over video and things like that, and really optimize for that. And of course, it is over the internet, so you still always have the internet weather to keep in mind of how much latency is going to be introduced because of just random network latency. But you will need to find specialized software to do that.
Nice. I've never heard of those things, but again, as a non-musician, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
That's great to know that there is stuff like that. That's cool. Shark's asking,
Doug makes a good point, actually.
Go ahead.
About that. In the old days, telephones had relatively low latency, but that isn't quite as true today with everything moving to digital. It's true because actually most phones now aren't analog. Like your cell phone, first of all, throw that out the window. That's not even an option for low latency. But even people's wired phones are actually mostly digital now. So
mostly VoIP.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you have an analog line to your carrier, it's going to be converted to digital at that end.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Fair point. Fair point. Shark says, have you had much experience using the Blackmagic Webcaster? Is the ATEM Mini a successor to the Webcaster? I never used the Webcaster because it was only 720p, so that thing was immediately a non-starter for me. I think I think it's safe to call this thing a successor to it. The ATEM does so much more and so much higher quality and a cheaper cost, right? Wasn't the Webcaster over $1,000 for what it did? It didn't even stream. It just out. I don't think it did. Anyway, I guess it must have.
Yeah, I think it was just a USB capture card. I don't know.
I don't remember. But no, I never used one. Never did. Gallo says, do you think BMD, Blackmagic Design, will be like Apple in terms of having at one point a small market share and building on prosumer products that will overtake the market in terms of video production? Well, I think you might be overlooking that Blackmagic is already huge in high-end video production. They make high-end cameras, very high-end switchers. The ATEM Mini is in the name, the Mini, it is a little baby product to a much, much bigger, much more robust lineup of switching hardware, up to the 8K Constellation. It can handle 8K switching. We're talking $10,000+ switchers. This thing that they've brought to the market just about a year ago now is unbelievable at this price point. And what it does, it has opened up a whole new market for them. And it's an interesting thing because I've watched this, I've been in this space for a while, and I own some of their very high-end, very expensive hardware that I use for my broadcast stuff. When the ATEM Mini came out, it's like, wow, this is awesome, super cheap. It not quite obsoletes, but it just really, it makes a lot of the stuff that I have that was really expensive no longer necessary to be that expensive. But because it brought a whole new world of people into the market that could suddenly afford this stuff, you got people going, well, why doesn't it do this? Why doesn't it do that? It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You paid $300 for the thing, bro. Pay $3,000 and you don't get that. So this is a huge, huge step down in price. But for those who don't know, and obviously not faulting anybody for not knowing, the things that this does at this price point is absolutely insane. It's still a year later. It's still insane. It's absolutely incredible. They already have that huge.
Chris asks, how does this compare to SRT or NDI? And that's a really good question. So this is definitely a completely separate world compared to the SDI and NDI, or SRT and NDI world, where we're using the ATEM Mini Pro to stream to a remote location, and I would say it's SRT is meant to be low latency, and NDI is meant to be high quality, but not over the internet. So they serve different purposes. So NDI you're going to use in your local network. It requires at least 70 megabits to get a signal through. So you're not going to push that over the internet, and it's not meant to work over the internet. It's meant to be for local video routing in a studio. And for that, it's probably going to do a better job than the streaming bridge does in a studio locally. But in order to use it, you're going to need either a $500 plus hardware device or a computer, a strong computer, and do it all in software. And the same with SRT. There are a couple of devices that do hardware encoding, but it is going to be more commonly seen in a computer. And I think that's why I like this option of using the ATEM Mini Pro and the streaming bridge, is that it's relatively affordable hardware. Both things are under $300 each, and it's dedicated hardware. So I know Joseph shares my opinion on that as well, of keeping things in dedicated hardware as much as possible. So that's I think why I like that.
Yeah, there was a comment earlier. Someone had asked. I didn't bring it up. Sorry, and I don't know where it is now. But asking if we were using any other software thing like OBS or anything like that. No, this is all hardware based. The only software element to this is the chat system that's coming up. That's the only software part of this, and that's just a custom script that Aaron wrote that's a plugin for Chrome. But no, all the other switching and everything else is done through hardware, which it makes a big difference. You've got the quality, you've got the reliability. When something goes wrong, it's easier to track down to this piece of hardware that needs to be replaced, updated, whatever. It's just wonderful having hardware. It really is. It's amazing what you can do with software. Don't get me wrong. Things like OBS and Wirecast, they have an amazing feature set, but there's so much that can go wrong, and good luck trying to figure it out. It can be a bit of a challenge for sure. Let's see here. There's still a bunch of questions coming up here. Studio says, will there be a next version of the streaming bridge like how BMD did for the ATEM's lineup every 3 months? What's your thoughts? Yeah, well, that's Blackmagic, isn't it? Probably. What else would they do with it? I mean, this thing is designed for the ATEM Mini, which is HD only. I could see this whole thing moving towards 4K, but probably not anytime too terribly soon. I don't know, what else does it need? It could have an NDI output built into it. That'd be kind of cool. So if I plug the Ethernet port in to get the feed from Aaron, and then that just starts broadcasting on my network an NDI feed that I can pick up anywhere. That could be kind of cool. What else would you like to see it do, Aaron?
Yeah, I don't know. What else would it even do? It's just, it has one job and it does it, right? I think that's what's good about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be super fancy.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. Shark says, what's the minimum bandwidth spec for this setup? I have 16 down and 1 meg up. I'm working on getting the bureaucrats to get you fiber. Yeah, the 1 meg up ain't going to do it. That is for sure. The 16 down would be enough. Aaron is sending me 12 megabit, so I could, even with 16 down, I could get that, although I would ask him to scale it back to probably 8 or 6 even, just to free up a little bit more room for overhead. But you cannot stream with just 1 megabit. Now, actually, I take that back. You cannot stream with 1 megabit with this current setup. But there are, if you have a dedicated hardware, H.265 streaming encoder, I have seen 700 kilobit H.265 streams that are like, you got to be kidding me, that's only 700K? That's insane. So that is possible. But again, dedicated hardware. And even there, I mean, 1 megabit, that's not much for overhead. I'd say upgrade before you before you try to do any kind of streaming, for sure.
This is a good comment from Dave, and this is a great point. So Joseph could be controlling my ATEM Mini Pro as well, and this is a different version of this same workflow. So what we're doing here is more like I'm sending a show, right? Because I'm mixing the chat, I'm controlling that on my end. I'm mixing my chat into my video that I'm sending to Joseph. But if you want to use this for like a interview with a remote guest, where you don't assume they're going to be also running that, you could ship them a camera and an ATEM Mini Pro already pre-configured in a little box, tell them to plug it into the internet and hit the on-air button. And if you also then set up a separate device to bring that into your VPN, you could then dial into that machine and control it remotely. And I keep talking about doing a video about this because I do want to do a video about this, setting up a VPN to control your ATEM Mini Pro remotely, because that's what I have here, where I can control my ATEM that's at home from here and vice versa, because it all appears on the same virtual private network, right? So we could have been doing that here, where Joseph could be dialing into my studio over my VPN, controlling my ATEM, instead of me doing it all here, which is also a very cool workflow and opens up some cool use cases too.
Yeah, so that's something that I've talked about a little bit on this show. I did a show about this for the Final Cut Creative Summit, where I talked about this actual workflow that I'm currently using right now for a production with a client, where the client couldn't be here because of COVID, and they are controlling my ATEM. We're not doing a live broadcast, we're recording everything locally, but he is controlling an ATEM. All my cameras are feeding through the big ATEM, not the little one, so that he can see any camera angle that he wants up big on his display. It is a complete remote production, where I've basically got a producer / director who's on a Zoom call looking at all of my cameras and able to control which cameras he's looking at on a bigger screen, and he's able to start and stop my recorders, and that is all through a VPN workflow. I will do a video on that. The one that I did, I can't use the one that I recorded live for the summit. I need to do a whole separate video, but I will do a show about that at some point. It's pretty awesome, actually. Morton's got a great question. We are going to do this. Morton says, could you run multiple streaming bridges to bring in more than 2 people at the same time into the chat? 100%. You can have as many streaming bridges as you got the bandwidth to bring in for. So I've got plenty of bandwidth on the input, so I could totally be bringing in multiples. The only limitation here with the ATEM Mini as the switcher is that you really can only bring in 2 video feeds on the Mini. You can kind of bring in 3. You got to be really careful about placement and so on. But it's really not designed for that. The ATEM Mini really just has a picture-in-picture, a 2-stream feed. But if I use my bigger ATEM, it has something called Super Source. I can bring in 4 video feeds plus that I can individually move and crop, and then I can have a 5th one as a backplate. So basically, it would be a 4-person interview, and that's how you would do that kind of standard newsy. You got 4 people in 4 windows with their name underneath and the animated WYSI graphics in the background. I could absolutely 100% do that, and that is going to be the next step. So I need to get my hands on another bridge. I don't really want to buy another bridge, but I'm thinking of asking some companies to just loan me some so we can do it, and I totally want to do it. And Tommy, if you're still here, I'm going to probably rope you into that, buddy, because I know that you've got the ATEM on your end to support it. But yeah, you totally could do it. It'd be really, really cool. Let's see. Gallo says your live stream, mine, is 25 to 27 seconds behind Aaron's. That's interesting. Well, that's Restream. So I am sending a signal to Restream.io.
Oh, it could be YouTube.
Restream.io is distributing that out and is currently sending it. It should be. It could be what?
It could be YouTube. My YouTube is set to ultra low.
Wow. Okay, my audio is I'm completely losing your audio. I'm going to take the earbud off and go for just keep my levels down on the speaker, and you let me know. People have to let me know if they start hearing an echo.
Weird Zoom glitch, because I can hear you still in real time, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just my AirPods or what, but it was super, super glitchy. Anyway, so the fact that my stream is behind Aaron's on YouTube has nothing to do with what we're doing. I'm sending a stream to Restream. Yeah. Restream is distributing out, so that's on Restream's or on YouTube.
And I think it's that your channel is not set to ultra low latency.
Oh, that might be, and I can't change that while I'm broadcasting, can I?
Yeah, you can't change it once you're broadcasting.
Well, who knows what is actually set up on YouTube, since it decided to start the show prematurely anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube really. Have you noticed this? So, Aaron, every time I set up a new live show, I do a clone of the previous show, right? Clone the previous show, change the settings, set the show to be public, hit go or hit save, whatever, and it always reverts it back to either members only or private, and I have to go in and re-edit it and make it public again. Every
weird.
single
I haven't seen
time.
that.
Super annoying. Anyway,
That's super annoying.
that is super annoying.
Here's a good question from Mark. So we're talking about multiple guests, bring multiple guests, and the problem would then be the monitor for this. So where would you actually have the conversation? And I think we would do Zoom again, right? Because all the guests would be using the ATEM as a webcam, so sending the same feed to Zoom as what's being streamed. And then on your end, you would either, again, just show like what I'm seeing is the program. So I'm seeing the whole program, and every guest would see that, so that they could see visually the other people. Everybody would be hearing each other through Zoom, because you need the real-time audio. The weird thing here is that when I'm looking at Zoom, like I'm looking at the Zoom window right now, and what I see for myself, like when I'm seeing myself in Zoom on the program feed, I'm delayed by the 1 second latency from the streaming bridge, which means all of the guests I would see with that same delay. But as long as we're hearing each other through the Zoom call, it would work. It would work fine. Mark asks, can I show my screen? Yeah, is that going to work? Can you switch?
Yeah, I'll give you full screen. Okay, you're full.
Yeah, so I'm going to switch to, let me get rid of the chat, otherwise it's going to look really weird. So this is what I'm looking at right now, and it's going to do a little tunnel effect here because this, can I even point at it? Now you don't see my face. In the middle, the left window of Zoom is Joseph's screen. You can see this says Photo Joseph in the corner. So because you're seeing my full screen on YouTube, that's what I'm seeing in Zoom. If I switch back to my face, you'll see it blinked really quick when I cut back to my face. So that is what I'm looking at on my main screen here. And that means that when we go back to the split screen, I'm now seeing, and I can't show it to you because I don't have another camera here. But what I'm seeing now is the split screen, and my reactions on that screen are delayed. But it's what's interesting about it is that it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't affect the conversation. Even though I'm seeing myself delayed, it's not distracting. And if I was seeing the guest delayed, it also wouldn't be distracting because we're hearing each other in real time because the audio is being routed through Zoom directly. And then this is a good question from Stanley.
Here, while you're answering that, I'm going to go grab different headphones so I can have the big cans on. I'll be right back.
Okay. So Stanley says, instead of using Zoom, wouldn't a WhatsApp call serve the same purpose for audio? Yeah, so the key thing here is that the audio for the conversation has nothing to do with what's being streamed on YouTube. That's what makes this work. So it could be Zoom, it could be WhatsApp, it could be a phone call, it could be FaceTime, it doesn't matter at all. And then you don't need a video feed for the remote guests either. Like you could just do it as a phone call. It is kind of nice to see people, and it turns out that you can see people on a delay and it doesn't really affect things. So that's kind of what makes this work.
Yeah, I want to add on to what you're talking about with the with using Zoom if we're doing multiple people, where we would not need, nobody would have to see the program over Zoom. Everybody could just be looking at a direct feed where they're just seeing each other like any normal Zoom call. As far as the entire guest lineup would be concerned, it's just a Zoom call. It's on the broadcast end that I would take all those different feeds and piece them together. And if I wasn't running it myself, if I was just acting as a producer and I'm not part of the call, I'm just a producer bringing it all in, then that makes it even easier because I don't have to worry about trying to route my video to both places and blah, blah, blah. So it'd certainly be easier if you were going to do that. So if you wanted to do let's just say that you're producing an event and you want to do a 4-person interview, you could absolutely have 4 ship out a kit with cameras and an ATEM Mini that's pre-configured to talk to your streaming bridge back in the studio. You ship those out. The guest sets up that camera with the ATEM. They literally they plug in their Ethernet connection into the ATEM Mini, the Mini Pro, and hit stream, and you're going to start seeing their feed on your end. And then me as the producer, I can mix everybody up and then, of course, set up a totally separate Zoom call. So again, as far as they're concerned, they're at a Zoom call. You just got to tell them, don't look into the webcam, look into the real camera, because that's what the live audience sees, which is what matters most. But yeah, that's totally doable.
Are you back on headphones now?
Yeah, I am, because people were saying I couldn't, for whatever reason, the Bluetooth ones were just dropping out like crazy. So I tried putting you on speaker, but someone said that they were hearing an echo, so I went on headphones.
I realized what was happening with that, because I didn't hear an echo because I'm listening to you through Zoom, which is doing its own echo cancellation. Right. But there is an echo happening in your studio, and your microphone picks it up and sends it to YouTube, because YouTube is getting the raw audio, not the. I'm getting the echo canceled audio,
right?
So it sounded fine to me the whole time.
Yeah, that's why nobody else could hear it. Now I wasn't sure. I had those speakers really, really low, but apparently people could still hear it. Yeah, so I just want to wire. The reason I just didn't want to wear the big, huge cans on here, so I went to get smaller headphones, which are on a short cable. So I'm like, gonna make sure I don't accidentally walk away. Wasn't quite planning on this, but yeah. Let's see. There's still a bunch of questions in here. I'm not familiar with this. Aaron, do you know anything about this? Winston says, how does this compare with the Zixi protocol? I'm not familiar with that.
Never heard of that. I'm gonna have to look at that.
Yep, sorry. I think somebody else had asked about Zixi as well earlier. Yeah, sorry, don't know. Shark had another question. Appreciate Dee's question. I have 175 jobs, 9 interviews. I'm thinking of going freelance/self-employed. What was the tipping? I guess we need to make this a little like shrinkish so we can get more text in there. People keep sending long messages.
Yeah.
What was the tipping point when you got paid as a photographer, videographer? Shark, so for me, it was more of a giant leap of faith. I had a corporate gig that I worked at for almost a decade. When I left, I had a little bit of money in the bank, although not enough. And I had a big gig coming out. Like basically, I quit my job and had a big gig lined up, expecting a whole bunch of more stuff to come right after that. It didn't, partially because it was 2009. Oops, what a great idea. Quit your job and then the recession hits. Bravo. So I had a really rough time of it in the beginning, but it was just, scraping. I mean, I had a really rough go of it in the beginning, but, it took a few years, but eventually built it up. But yeah, I would say if you're, trying to support a comfortable lifestyle and you're going to make the big switch, you definitely want to have some savings, or be prepared to eat a lot of ramen. Pretend you're in college again. Zach is saying that both YouTube channels are virtually in sync. That's interesting. Oh. Studio K, will Aaron get his birthday wish fulfilled from Blackmagic? Advanced birthday wishes, Aaron. Well, happy birthday, Aaron. When's your birthday? Is it coming up soon? Oh, I've got a freeze from Aaron. Interesting. Both on Zoom and in the feed. Oh, and he just dropped out of Zoom, but I can hear him. Very interesting. So I guess we're going to see what happens here. I'll leave his thing up. We're going to leave his... what am I hearing beeping? There's like some beep, beep, beep. I'm going to text him. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, his power's out. Oh, I'm hearing his UPS. Okay, so yeah, I hear it. That is bizarre. Okay. Okay, but the audience is not hearing. Are you guys hearing Aaron? Let's see here. But how am I hearing you? Wait, you're hearing me? His internet connection is connected to his UPS battery. So his Wi-Fi is still on. People are saying no Aaron, no audio from Aaron. Aaron is gone. Okay, well here, check this out. I'm going to turn you up on the speakers, and now they'll be able to hear you. So go ahead and keep talking. They can hear you, buddy.
my power went out, and my UPS is beeping, and my internet is fine because my laptop's on a battery and my Wi-Fi is on a battery, but my whole studio is out of power.
Oh my god!
And I'm trying to decide if it's my my whole building or if I tripped a breaker.
Well, why don't you hit that button on the UPS to shut that thing up?
Yeah, can I do that? Mute?
Yeah, there you go. That is funny. So, yeah, so the reason that the audience can now hear you, Aaron, is because I've done exactly what we were trying to avoid before. I'm now blasting you through the speakers so that people can hear you.
Yeah. So I've got 6 minutes before this dies.
Okay, well we're at the end of the hour anyway. It's 11 o'clock. So let me just.
That's hilarious.
That is just too funny. Let me just take a look if there's any last second big questions we want to do. That is wild. Let's see here. Let me get my. How can I turn this on? Let me get the DSK back up and running. I don't have a preset set up for just me in my chat. There we go. Okay. Oh, this is too funny. Somebody else asking about the SDI ref inputs. Yeah, we're gonna have to figure that out. Sorry, we do not actually know. I mean, in general, SDI reference is for keeping things in sync, but when it's being a broadcast over the internet, I'm not quite sure how that falls in. So we'll have to figure that out.
Can you bring me in through Zoom? Is that a thing you can do? Can you just share your screen?
Yeah. Oh wait, your video's back. Okay.
Well, I'm on my webcam, my laptop camera, shining my iPhone light at me.
Your iPhone. Oh my God. I can. It'd be quite. It would probably be out of sync. But here's. Let's see here.
I just think it'll be funny. It's a good backup.
There you go.
There we go. So yeah, my power's out. Everything's dark, and this is my iPhone flashlight, and my webcam from my laptop, which is battery powered, and my Wi-Fi is battery powered. So it's going to die in about 4 minutes.
And I can give you. Hold on. I can get better quality audio. Let me do this. Let me just turn on audio from the Mac. There we go. Say something. Okay, so now that should be streaming through properly to them. Let me set this view. I could set this to gallery view. Oh wait, right. What am I? Switch my zoom back. There we go. There we go, and turn that off. And there we go. And so now we're back to the crappy Zoom system. So if you were trying to do this entirely in Zoom. Oh, they're not hearing you? That's odd. Oh, your power came back on? Okay, so folks, you're saying you don't have audio from him. That is very odd. It's, yeah, you should be. Oh, I know why. Okay, my bad, sorry. Let me set my audio out. Output device to the Blackmagic. And now I've lost his audio too. Oh man, we are really killing it here today. Okay. I see you. Let me pull up. Let me go back to our split view. No, I'm okay. You're not streaming to the bridge yet. So. Oh no. Are you guys hearing his audio now? I think I routed that properly. Let's see here. Waiting. Here's the last comment I saw about no audio. Nope, still people saying no audio, so I did not route this properly. Oh.
What an adventure.
BMD, there we go. That's the right audio. Okay. Now they should be able to hear you, Aaron.
Okay, back now. And am I on the stream?
Let me
No.
see. Let me bring you back up through the
I'm not
yes.
on the
Yep.
program feed. There we go.
That. Okay, so now audio is back. Let's see here. I'm going to get rid of this Zoom window. What an adventure.
I cannot believe
People saying
this.
you're too loud. You're very loud. I think because you're doubled. Here we go. I just killed his secondary feed. He should be back to normal now. And Aaron, I need to reroute your audio.
My audio,
I think,
reset back to my default, and I turned myself down earlier. So,
all right. So take your audio down. I think I was doubling it up because I had taken your Zoom audio and routed it through. I need to.
All right, I'm back down to quieter now.
And
all right,
I need to output his audio back to my ears. Okay.
I can do chat still.
And Curtis says, "Nice job rolling with that."
Nice job rolling with that. Says
Curtis. Oh, great! And Team DLS says, "Sounds perfect now." Zax is great handling this. Yeah, you know, it's an adventure, isn't it? I can't believe that you're still on. That's insane. That
blew my mind. That was I totally forgot that I had wired my Wi-Fi because I have all Unify stuff here. So it's PoE, power over Ethernet, to my Switch. But my Switch is on my battery.
On the UPS.
So, yep.
That is wild. And then the fact that you had internet still, though, that's a bit odd. So your Wi-Fi router, oh, that's the Unify.
Right. So my network closet over there has my network switch, which is powering my Wi-Fi, and then it's going to the fiber modem, which is also on the battery, and then it's a fiber connection to the internet.
Okay, so your fiber. Okay,
that's
so your
powered,
modem was also
from
on
a
the
mile
battery.
away or whatever.
Power went out, but the
Yep.
the telephony company didn't lose it. Wow.
Yep. And the and then when I realized that I could still hear you, it's because Zoom switched all my audio devices back to my AirPods directly, because it was like, oh, your ATEM's gone, so let's switch your audio back.
Right.
And then I kept hearing you fine, and I didn't realize that I could also talk to you. I was just once he started mentioning the beeping, I was like, oh right, he can hear me still.
That is too fun. Oh man, that was wild. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
this is real life streaming for sure. The biggest thing to know: what went wrong and managed to fix it on the fly. Well done.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, well, I think it's time to wrap this thing up anyway.
Yep.
Let's see if there's anything else that we want to pull up
Yep.
out of the chat, but I think we're good. The show will always go on. Yes, Winston, the show will always go on. Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure there was stuff that we missed. There was a lot of other chats flying by on there, but thanks for participating, everybody. That was wild. And Aaron, you clearly have a bigger live audience than you. You have 220 watching on yours. I've got less than 100 on mine. So I don't know. I'm gonna
Nice.
hand over the reins of live streamer to you, because this is clearly you're clearly drawing in the
Yeah.
audience.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Absolutely, that was super cool. Well, I guess we should say, hey, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to Aaron's channel. Please make sure that you do. Yeah.
And subscribe to Joseph's channel
Yeah.
if you haven't already.
This is wild. Cool. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just wrap this thing up. Thanks, buddy. That was fun.
All right.
Let's do this again.
That was fun.
With 3. Is Tommy still on? I haven't seen him chat in a while. But Tommy, we're going to enlist you.
Yeah.
Because we know you've got a good audio video set up. And I will really have to think that, well, first of all, I have to get another streaming bridge. But route this through the big ATEM. Yeah. That'll be really cool. That'll be cool. We can do it.
Yeah, we can bring Curtis in too.
Right, because Curtis is going, oh yeah. Okay, so I just need to get 2 more of these things. Yeah. I'll ask the DVE store to sponsor it. They can loan it to us. I'm sure they'll be happy to.
There we go.
Everybody, if you're gonna buy one of these things, go to the DVE store and buy it from there. They're awesome folks. They're a small company out of the Pacific Northwest. They're awesome. And I'm gonna get them to sponsor the next one and send a couple of these to me on loan. All right. Let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
Any final sign-off
All right.
words there, Aaron?
No, that was great. That was quite a fire drill. I'm glad it worked out, and thank you everybody for watching. It's been a lot of fun. Come back for more. We'll be doing this again.
I think we will. All right, guys. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Oops.